SpongeBob SquarePants is like super funny with all those silly underwater shenanigans, right? But then there's this one episode that's like, whoa, way darker than your average Krabby Patty. It's called Nasty Patty. And it's all about guilt, paranoia, and that thing where you feel bad for doing something bad.
Mr. Krabs, what are we gonna do?
Anyway, it's hilarious, but also kinda creepy. People on Reddit even think it's the darkest episode ever. So let's, put the patty and see what makes it so wild, from the spooky jokes to the big moral stuff. Cool, huh? Okay, let's start with how this episode takes something so ordinary, serving a health inspector, and flips it into total chaos. SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs are just doing their usual thing, running the Krusty Krab, flipping patties, and trying to keep things cleanish. Then, bam, the health inspector walks in. He's supposed to make sure everything's up to code, but Mr. Krabs is like, this guy's a total fake.
We've been duped!
Duped!
Bamboozled!
Why? Because Krabs is kind of paranoid and super cheap, a real combo meal of bad decision making. So what's Krabs' genius idea to deal with this fraud? Make the nastiest burger in Bikini Bottom history. Like, it's so gross it'd probably win an award for world's most unappetizing food. SpongeBob, being the world's happiest fry cook, just goes along with it. They pile on toenail clippings, gym sock juice, volcano sauce, the stuff you'd find in like a dumpster behind a gym. Yum, right?
Brother, what's that?
Then things get real wild. The health inspector gets hit by a fly and collapses. SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs, they think, oh no, we just turned this guy into a ghost with our nasty patty. From here, it's like watching a crime thriller, but with more jellyfish and fewer fingerprints. Here's the thing about Nasty Patty. It's not just your usual sunny SpongeBob vibes. Bikini Bottom suddenly feels like it's auditioning for a detective movie. The sky's all dark and stormy, and there's rain pouring down like someone left the faucet on upstairs. Even the Krusty Krab looks different. Shadows stretch everywhere, and the whole vibe just screams like something fishy's going on here. And don't even get me started on the music. It's all suspenseful and creepy, like you're about to see a plot twist in some underwater mystery. Even SpongeBob's mood changes. Usually he's all giggles and bubbles, but now he's a total mess, spiraling into full-on paranoia. What makes this tonal shift so genius is that it's still SpongeBob at heart. The show's always been about exaggeration, so leaning into this dramatic noir-style chaos feels like a natural step. It's not out of place. It's just Bikini Bottom with a creepy twist. Let's talk about how SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs handle this whole situation. Spoiler, they're a disaster, but like a funny disaster. SpongeBob's over here yelling, "We're doomed! The patty did it! I can't go to jail!"
I'm guilty. I'll never survive in prison. Come up the floor with me.
Meanwhile, Krabs is like, relax, boy, grab a shovel. We're taking care of this, responsibly. Classic Krabs. SpongeBob's whole deal is that he's way too innocent for his own good. He steps on a bubble and feels guilty for like a week. So when he thinks they've turned the health inspector into a ghost, he's ready to quit fry cookie and turn himself in. Krabs, on the other hand, is all about sneaky solutions. His plan? Bury the evidence and hope no one notices. Not exactly a masterclass in crime solving, but hey, it's Krabs. The comedy works because they're total opposites. SpongeBob's freaking out like a jellyfish stuck in a net, and Krabs is over here trying to stay cool while making everything worse. It's like watching two clowns try to juggle dynamite. You know it's going to explode, but you can't look away. So let's talk about the humor in this episode. It's not just funny, it's ridiculously funny. The Nasty Patty itself is like a masterpiece of gross-out comedy. Toenails, sludge, gym sock juice? Who even thinks of this stuff? Oh right, SpongeBob and Krabs. But the real comedy gold is in how they handle the situation. Instead of checking to see if the health inspector's okay, they're like, well, guess we're criminals now. They drag him through the mud, try to bury him in the rain, and basically turn Bikini Bottom into a crime scene. It's so over the top, you can't help but laugh. What makes the dark humor work is that it's not trying to be edgy or shocking, it's just absurd. Like, SpongeBob and Krabs aren't bad guys. They're just really bad at solving problems. And that's what makes it so funny. It's not about the crime, it's about how hilariously terrible they are at dealing with it. Nasty Patty isn't just about a gross burger. It's also a story about guilt, paranoia, and how your brain can totally mess with you. SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs didn't actually do anything wrong, but their guilt convinces them they're doomed. Instead of thinking rationally, they panic, and everything spirals out of control. This is like super relatable. We've all had moments where a tiny mistake felt like the end of the world, right? Maybe you spilled coffee on someone's laptop or accidentally hit reply all on an email. The episode takes that feeling and Krabs cranks it up to 11. SpongeBob's wailing and Krabs' ridiculous schemes are exaggerated, but they're based on real emotions. That's what makes it work. Even the nasty patty itself feels symbolic. It's a gross, chaotic mess born out of paranoia and bad decisions. The whole episode is like a warning about what happens when you let fear take over. And the best part? It's all wrapped up in SpongeBob's goofy, lovable charm. So why is Nasty Patty still such a big deal years later? Well, it's not just because it's funny, though it is. It's because it shows how SpongeBob can do more than just silly jokes. This episode dives into darker, smarter storytelling without losing its bubbly charm. Back when this episode came out, cartoons were starting to push the limits. Shows like The Simpsons and Ren and Stimpy were already doing edgy stuff, and SpongeBob was like, "Hold my jellyfish net!" Nasty Patty proved that even a goofy sponge could tackle big themes while still being hilarious. Years later, it's still one of SpongeBob's most memorable episodes. It's proof that the show isn't just for kids. It's for anyone who loves smart, creative storytelling. The mix of slapstick, absurdity, and moral reflection, that's the secret formula. One detail that often flies under the radar, pun intended, is the role of the fly in this episode. It's such a small, seemingly random event, landing on the health inspector and knocking him out, but it sets off the entire chain of chaos. This tiny moment speaks volumes about the unpredictable nature of life. Sometimes the smallest things can cause the biggest messes. The fly also works as a symbol of decay and corruption, tying directly to the themes of guilt and paranoia. If you think about it, the fly might also be a subtle jab at how society tends to overreact to minor inconveniences. A fly lands, someone panics, and before you know it, SpongeBob and Krabs are dragging a body through the mud. It's ridiculous, but it's also pretty deep if you squint at it long enough. Here's a mindbender for you. What if the events of Nasty Patty are just a projection of SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs' guilt-ridden imaginations? Think about it. The episode leans so heavily into surrealism, with exaggerated stormy weather, creepy shadows, and dramatic music. It's almost as if Bikini Bottom itself morphs into a reflection of their inner turmoil. This theory could explain why everything escalates so quickly. The death of the health inspector might not even be real, just a paranoid hallucination shared by two characters spiraling into guilt. Even the Nasty Patty, with its absurd ingredients, feels more like a nightmare than reality. If true, this interpretation adds a psychological layer to the episode, turning it into a cautionary tale about how guilt can warp your perception of reality. So what's the takeaway here? Nasty Patty isn't just a funny episode. It's a bold, creative masterpiece. It's dark without being too scary, smart without being too serious, and just the right amount of absurd. And the best part? It's still SpongeBob at its core. Beneath the rain, the shadows, and the paranoia. It's a story about two characters who are way out of their depth, and that's what makes it so fun to watch. So next time you're in the mood for some SpongeBob, give Nasty Patty another watch. Just maybe skip the toenail clippings if you're snacking. Oh boy, that was a lot of thinking. My brain needs a nap. But wait, before I do that, you should subscribe and like the video. And maybe leave a comment or a sandwich. Yeah, a sandwich would be nice. But mostly subscribe.